Good afternoon to everyone. Today I will mention to you and talk about the American regionalism, the brush strokes of local color. Here to begin, I will mention to you some background information, and something to highlight is that in America, realism had its roots in regionalism, and this is a kind of literature that emphasizes a specific geographic setting and that makes use of the speech and manners of the people who live in that region. Like an example of this could be like the dialect in some regions of Costa Rica, people people talk, and in some others they don't talk in this dialect or don't even know about it. And uh, but emphasize in in America in those times, and also not just like the dialect or costumes of those areas, also like the in political stuff, like the economic systems that different regions had in those days. Also, here you can note that the time period is that it was developed in the late 1920s and became popular through the 1930s. And some other key characteristics of this type of realism is that there are some uh, regionalist early writers in those times, like Sarah Orne Jewett, Kate Chapin, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Bret Harty, and Charles W. Chestnut, who are noted early regionalists who recorded the peculiarities of custom, speech, and temperament in the different parts of a rapidly expanding nation. And these regionalist writers strove to be realistic in their depictions of speech patterns and manners, but they struggled to be realistic in their representations of character and social environment, because in those depictions, if they were the ones who were like suffering, uh, about the justices made in those times, about social or political problems that region was going through. So that is why they struggle to be realistic in some representations. Here you can you can see the different regionalist writers I mentioned before, like Sarah Orne Jewett, Kate Chapin, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Bret Harty, and Charles W. Chestnut. And now I will I will pass to Mark Twain. His real name was Samuel Langhorne Clemens, but in literature he was known as Mark Twain. His some random the characteristics of him is the lifetime he lived from 1835 to 1910. He's the best known example of a regional writer whose realism far surpassed local bounds. Also, he wrote different works, but his most famous one was the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, written in 1884. And some characteristics of him is that he was the first who was known as a regional humorist. Twain evolved into a writer whose comic view of society became increasingly satiric over time. He was praised as the greatest humorist the United States has produced, and William Faulkner called him the father of American literature. And uh, pointing out about his best novel, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. In this novel, Twain describes the moral growth of a comic character in an environment that is at the same time physically beautiful and morally repugnant. The novel combines a, a biting picture of some injustice inherent in pre-Civil War life with a lyrical portrait of the American landscape. And that would be everything about this presentation, uh, showing some characteristics and some information of the regionalism.